This bill does, this is a bill as a real estate agent. I was sitting across the closing table, and a closing attorney slid this sheet of paper over to my clients and said, hey, if you get this notice, please ignore it. It is a third-party deed solicitation where a number of deed solicitors are sending documents to a new client, to a new homeowner, trying to get them to fill out a form. It looks very official. Fill out a form, mail them a check, and they'll send them a copy of their deed. That is what they've just paid their closing attorney, among other things, to do. So it's duplicative, so this is a consumer protection bill. That would require them to put at the top of their documents, this is not a bill or an official government document. This is a solicitation.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Hanson.
Mr. Chairman, I bring to you House Bill 190 in modified open. It's about six.
Is this the first time you've been here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
You've already got questions. And you hadn't done your bill. Oh, well, I guess we'll let you go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill codifies case law to make all antenuptial agreements, otherwise known as prenuptial agreements, meet four requirements. One, the agreement must be in writing. They must be voluntarily signed by both parties and attested to by two witnesses. One of these witnesses must be a notary. This bill is supported by the State Bar and the Family Law section of the Bar, of which I am a member. I am happy to take any questions, but I would request favorable consideration from the committee.
Mr. Hatchett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Hanson, in the spirit of today, and being that I'm from Lawrence County, can you go over a little more about what antenuptial is? I've heard of prenuptial, but are they the same?
They are.
Okay. All right.
They are.
Thank you.
Ante is pre.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Mr. Martin.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was just wondering if the lady, I know it's her first time before the gentleman's committee, but we'd wear a badge to be recognized as a member of the body, wouldn't we? Oh, she's got it over there. I was just asking that for the Secretary of the Caucus. He is her mentor, I believe.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I was sitting in the back. I didn't want to disrupt. I came in late. Could my wife use this legislation against me in the event that she promised to stay with me until the boys graduated high school? So that means 4 years. So before this happens.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, because these are prenuptial agreements, and I assume that you two are married, she may not use this against you because you would require a postnuptial agreement.
I think I can support it. Thank you.
Mr. Setzler. Mr. Setzler.
Mr. Chairman, isn't it true that when former Representative Hamilton tried to pursue a line of questioning like this against Representative Beskins, she slapped him down just like Representative Hanson slapped these gentlemen down? Isn't that true?
Yeah. Trying to be nice on my side, and y'all know how hard that is. No more questions, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cantrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I bring to you House Bill 246. It's the last bill under the modified open rule section. 8 years ago, our General Assembly passed what was an annual fitness assessment program bill. It became known as the SHAPE Act. In an overabundance of caution, there was a 10-year sunset put on that bill. That program has been very successful over the last 8 years, and all this bill does is remove the sunset provision, passed unanimously out of the Education Committee.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I bring before you HB 117. It's under structured rule, third one down. We're just removing the sales and use tax from the voluntary portion of a contribution for a ticket price. It's mainly dealing with the charitable organizations. If you have a ticket price of $75 and you write a check for $100, the balance will be exempt.
Mr. Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to figure out exactly how this would occur. What would be an example of someone trying to do this, and how would it work?
If you attended a fundraiser for the Boy Scouts Club and the ticket price was $50, but in the goodness of your heart you decided to write a check for $100, $50 would be taxable and $50 would not be taxable. The $50 that you contributed over and above the ticket price.
So right now there would be sales tax on that and the circulation of this money in the economy.
Yes, sir.
The circulation of the money, how would that relate, in your opinion, to what we sometimes refer to as the circulation of waters theory, and how this would work in that area?
Answer the question.
Maybe you need to read up a little bit more.
Yes, sir.
No more questions.
Thank you. Appreciate your support.
Ms. Price.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I bring before you this morning House Bill 162 in the middle of modified open rule. This bill came before us last year. It was passed in the House, got stalled in the Rules Committee in the Senate. This bill, which is identical to Bill 939 of last year, builds on House Bill 1000 that was passed in 2014 that authorizes courts to intercept tax refunds to satisfy unpaid fines and fees greater than $25. This bill actually permits the AOC to transfer or pass intercepted tax refund amounts to the court to which the debt is owed prior to final determination. So, in other words, it adds a specific court as a fiduciary of funds pending appeals in addition to the AOC. I ask for favorable consideration, and I'm willing to answer any questions.
Let me see if I understood what you said. It got hung up in rules in the Senate?
Yes.
What happened? You didn't kiss his ring?
I tried, but he was busy that day.
He probably couldn't hear it for all the music he's got playing over there.
Apparently heard something from y'all that I had too many bills, so he decided he wasn't going to participate.
He might have heard that from me.
I think
we've had this conversation. No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Belton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a House Bill 139, the third one down for the modified open rule. The very same bill we passed in the House and the Senate last year was vetoed by the governor because of some language the wise sages of the Senate added. We've removed that offending language, and the governor is happy with it now. It's a Department of Education bill.
No questions. Thank you.
Appreciate favorable consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I bring before you HB 40 and HB 137. Addressing HB 40 first, I just wanted to add, did receive a letter of support last week from the Georgia Composite Medical Board in support of HB 40, which would allow for a dog bite victim to gain access to important information regarding a shot record of the animal that bit them. And then on HB 137 is a minor tweak to the civil asset forfeiture proceedings when it's subcontracted out to make sure that there is a written contract in place on file with the clerk and that the terms of that contract cannot be related to the value of the property that is seized. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Coomer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm asking for House Bill 185 under modified open rule, which is the probate court judges bill that allows associate or clarifies that associate judges of probate court can also serve as JAGs in the National Guard and Reserve Forces of the military.
If I tell you, we're lit up here. If you've got questions, raise your hand. Okay, no questions. Next, Mr. Earhart.
House Bill 37, Mr. Chairman. Sanctuary campus.
Any questions? Ms. Dempsey.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I bring to you House Bill 198 on the bottom of modified structure. This is a bill to educate parents and guardians in grades of children in grades 6 through 12 to receive educational information on flu shots, the same way that we pass legislation on meningitis vaccines as well. No mandate to take the shot, just to inform from the CDC website, can be loaded onto a school website or in handout materials.
And if you haven't heard out here from your constituents how many children have missed school, particularly in the last 2 weeks, y'all, we got an epidemic, I think. Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring to you House Bill 61. It's under structured rule. This would provide a mechanism for the state of Georgia to collect sales taxes on internet sales that originate outside the state of Georgia.
Well, that's a good bill. Oh, I'm on that one, aren't I? Any questions of Mr. Powell? Raise your hand. No questions. Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 125, which is structured rule, creates a brand new industry in coastal Georgia for the mega yachts. We did something similar to the aircraft industry. Should create several hundred jobs and something that's very unique in all of the coast of the U.S.
I think Coomer has some questions. Mr. Harrell.
Chairman, members of the committee, House Bill 195 passed the House last year 164-0, stalled in the Senate. It's a wonderful nonprofit in Atlanta, provides housing and 24/7 care for 69 mentally disabled residents that recently partnered with a for-profit contractor to make renovations to the property. That partnership disqualified them from the property tax abatement. 195 just simply says that partnership would not disqualify them. It would require another referendum of the voters to allow a property tax abatement for this home for the mentally disabled.
Questions? Anybody else? Okay. Wait a second. Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to put my name by 139, the school system transparency thing.
Okay. This is for Wednesday. Under modified open. HB 139, do I hear a move? Any opposition? It's on. Under modified open, HB 185. Any opposition? It's on. Under structured, HB 61. Any opposition? It's on. Under structured, HB 117. Any opposition? It's on. Under structured, HB 195.
Move.
Any opposition? That's it.